I was thinking about this last night as I was going to bed and could not come up with anything I wanted to talk about. I was just, I guess, tired. And then the idea hit. Have you ever been tired? I mean, I know everyone's been tired at some point, but what I want to focus on is that if you're watching this, if you are doing anything at all, the most important thing is not so much time as it is energy. Energy supersedes everything. Time management is useless without energy. Have you had like all the time in the world? Just you had like all the time, like you do whatever you want, but you had no energy? What did you get done? I mean, nothing. And then there have been other times, I'm sure, I mean, if you've lived as long as I have, where you have had maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours, and that's all you had, but you had all this energy and you're able to get so much done. That's the difference. It just occurred to me that in order to get anything accomplished, anything more than what you're already doing, I've talked about how change is changing your habits. Change is spending a lot of energy just to escape the gravity, just Earth's gravity, just the inertia of your life. Change is changing the people's perceptions and expectations around you. All that change requires energy, not necessarily time. And what you want to do is you want to do everything you can to protect your energy, which as a default will help protect your time. I talked about how the old idea of entrepreneur, or the old idea of entrepreneur is that guy that's going to gamble on himself and come up big. You also heard about like hustle culture or hustle porn, where you're just going like 24/7 or 26/8, like you're always on it, you're always about it, you're always going after it. And the reality is, or at least where I'm at, where you're at, like the sobering, the boring approach, and maybe the reality of it is you're going to bed early. You always hear about people waking up early. You've heard about, or maybe you haven't, but I've always heard about, you got to wake up early to get things done. For me, waking up early isn't so much as an option, more like optimal, because if I can wake up earlier, or when I wake up early, I have more control of what's happening. As the day goes on, I lose control. There are other factors that start to take over. There's other commitment, there's other people, there's life that happens. When you're watching as much YouTube as I do, you'll discover that a lot of people that I'm watching, a lot of people that you follow, they are single, or at least they aren't in a long-term committed relationship, or they don't have family. In other words, they don't have other obligations. And that is awesome because it allows you to be extremely selfish and you can just focus on what you want to get accomplished. And you can do the same thing in a relationship. You can do the same thing in a family, but you run the risk of alienating the people around you. And so it's like one thing, there's two steps. There's two tracks for this. If you're single and you can be completely selfish and just focus on what you want. And then there's another track where you can be selfish in what you want, but you have to also take into account those that are closest to you, those loved ones, so you don't alienate them on your road to evolving, to your change, to whoever it is that you want to be. At least maybe more happiness and peace in your life. So I'm just saying all that to say is focus on your energy, protect your energy, do things that will either protect your energy or create more energy. So I know for me, one of my big things is walking, physical exercise, because movement, to me, movement is life. That's like in moving, that's where you begin to feel life. I noticed that when I wasn't moving so much, started to feel, I'm not saying death, but let's just say didn't feel like I'm living life as much. So movement is energy. And so I take a walk. The walk is more for my overall sense of health and well-being, but I do feel energized and I feel recharged from it. The other thing is am focused on sleep. I've been using some breathing strips to help open up my nostrils, my nasal cavity, and I found that more than anything, or more consistently than, I mean, I've done melatonin, magnesium, any kind of natural sleep aid to help me get better sleep, I've done. And I found that these breathing strips have been very effective in helping me get a more deep and restful sleep. And then sometimes I take my mouth shut to make sure that I am breathing through my nostrils throughout the night. And it's just been great. The thing that I'm missing out on is I'm not sleeping long enough, meaning I think the average is, they say 7 to 9 hours. I haven't slept 7 hours, and I haven't slept 7 hours, and at least not consistently and not very often in a very long time. But if I feel like if I was able to get to sleep longer with the breathing intake, that'll give me a very restful and recharged sense of self and build my energy. So I'd say sleep, my walking, and the other thing that I really do want to incorporate, but I'm a little annoyed with, is drinking water. I've heard, just as a general rule of thumb, half your body weight in pounds in ounces of water. So it's somewhere like around 100 ounces, a gallon of water a day is what is optimal for me. And I found that when I reach that water intake level, I do feel better. I do feel energized. I just haven't really focused on it lately, meaning in the last like 4 or 5 months, is because with my walking habit, I just don't like having to run to the bathroom all the time. And I just haven't figured that out. But that's just another step in as I get better at all this. So just to recap everything, energy is everything. Energy supersedes time, because with all the time management in the world, if you've blocked out your time and you've got time set aside for this, that, and the other, but you have energy to execute, it doesn't matter. However, you could have the worst time management of all, but if you're able to have the energy to plow through things, that's going to be more effective. So energy is important. It's the genesis of all momentum. Energy, or time management without energy, is useless. And you do everything you can to improve your energy first, and then you can focus on everything else, because you'll have the energy to do. So that's it for today. Thank you for listening, and until next time.